Will Chili DeCastro's board game ever actually come out? Did he make a terrible mistake pricing it at $49.99? Will you play a board game with nearly 400 playing cards in each box? Direct D seems to be concerned by Lane Meyer's doxing of his address. Should be on the lookout for the Arizona auditor. Long Island audit goes on parade. Shows off new merchandise in protest in front of Patrick Ryder's house. Will you be sporting his stylish new duds? Plus, Glenn Serio challenges a sheriff to mutual combat again. What will happen when someone finally accepts his challenge? All this and more on this edition of Auditing Insanity. Good afternoon, and welcome to another combined edition of the Auditing Insanity Newscast. I'm Johnny Jones, and this is the news for Thursday, March 13th and Friday, March 14th, 2025. Just a heads up, we'll be back with you on Monday, March 17th, 2025, for our next edition of the paper as human servant Jim has the weekend off from insanity. With that, we're going to dive right into things as we ask you to focus on.
Will board game ruin delete laws financially? Fans grew concerned for the mental health of Jose Chili DeCastro on Wednesday night as he seemed overtly transfixed by watching anti-police videos after sharing some possibly costly setbacks with his upcoming Constitution headquarters board game. DeCastro updated his fans with the news that he had completed 2 of the 7 parts of the game and had printed 226 game-related cards with another 145 cards to be printed. While he did not update pre-orders, his last solid figure was roughly 50 pre-orders for the $49.95 game. While he says he's trying to stick to the promise that the game will ship by April of this year, after having missed the Christmas 2024 promise deadline, progress seems to have slowed if not stopped on the project. There are continuing rumors that DeCastro may be in over his head cost-wise on the project. With nearly 400 cards for just the 2 completed modules, with such low pre-orders, it is unlikely that DeCastro will be able to recoup his costs with such a limited print run. DeCastro himself has credited the board game with helping him craft a bill to be presented to the California state legislature. The bill seeks to permanently retire police dogs and have their handles fired after a set amount of false hits during drug searches. It is unclear when DeCastro will attempt to get the bill into the California state legislature, but we'll update with updates should he announce any. The YouTuber assured his viewers that the product will teach them to file similar bills, tailored to their state. He has also claimed that the game will allow them to help him overturn the landmark Terry v. Ohio decision on a national level. DeCastro complained about having to register his car in the state of California for $678 at the DMV on Wednesday. Having previously called car registration a license to drive a scam, DeCastro's decision to comply with the registration policies of the state of California upset some in his audience. Repeating past strange assertions, DeCastro has long stood by his belief that sticking fingers or other objects into open wounds is more effective than direct pressure or bandaging wounds. Wednesday night he chastised police for not sticking their fingers into gunshot wounds to save a man's life after showing a video of a police-related shooting. Then cursed police as the man died on camera, chastising them further for not asking the man if he wanted last rites before he died. Finally, DeCastro announced that he may be combining his various websites, TeamDLZ.com, DeleteLaws.com, etc., into one mega site as he has a new webmaster who will be handling his new bail-related project that will be released soon. DeCastro is expected to live stream again Friday night.
Direct D confirms doxing by Lane Myers. Friday morning saw a scary moment for viewers of Christopher Direct D. Ruff's Christopher Ruff channel, as a business partner of Ruff's, was featured on his late-night live stream, claiming that someone had poisoned his dogs and one of his dogs was dying in front of him. The man, attempting to shield his identity, directly asked both Ruff and rival Lane Myers to stop advertising his address on their live streams. The man, who is listed as a business partner of Ruff and an acquaintance of Myers, said his address had been doxed by Myers due to his imagined association with Ruff. Before the man left to take his dog to care at an animal emergency hospital, he asked both men to stop publicizing that he has anything to do with Ruff. Ruff agreed to it, stating that he wasn't the one who released the man's address, and the man became agitated as he was receiving text messages from Myers accusing him of illegal activities and threatening to go to the FBI to report him. Ruff would blame the leaking of his own address on YouTuber Reluctant Prophet, who, among a long list of YouTube personalities, has been at odds with Ruff since the summer of 2024 over comments made on Ruff's various live streams. Explaining that his own address was legitimately doxed by Myers for hours of time this week, Ruff stated that he lived on 36 acres of property that belonged to his girlfriend. He said that he would not press charges against Myers for the doxing, but could not guarantee that his girlfriend held the same position after Myers doxed their address and allegedly doxed the address of her grandmother's business. Ruff explained that Myers' rage goes back 2 weeks to a single comment made in response to Myers on a YouTube video. In the post, Ruff had called Myers lame liars and warned Myers fans not to follow him, essentially because Myers was an idiot. The response for Myers has allegedly been relentless phone calls, threats of early morning raids by the FBI, police coming to arrest Ruff for outstanding warrants, threats from other YouTubers, and relentless pressure to give into whatever Myers is demanding at the moment. Ruff chuckled at most of these ideas, as he explained that his outstanding warrants were for misdemeanor bench warrants in a county outside of the one he lives in. No one would be making the journey out for bench warrants, according to Ruff, and even if he was pulled over by police outside of that area, the warrants would only come into play if the county had an extradition agreement and the arresting officer decided to pursue the warrants. Listening to portions of Myers' recent court appearances, Ruff complained that Myers' unusual behavior in court was making things harder for other auditors and cop watchers outside of Tucson to get a fair deal in court, muttering that the people in Tucson were making things worse. Warning Myers and other YouTuber that they were officially trespassed from his property, Myers specified that he would use lethal force should YouTuber clash with Bao come on his property and attempt to attack him or his family. This is an ongoing news story. Long Island audit makes fashion statement with protest. Continuing his one-man protest to raise money for his various personal endeavors, Sean Paul Long Island audit Reyes proudly walked through the neighborhood where Nassau Police Commissioner Patrick Ryder lives, wearing black and wearing a face mask concealing his identity. Reyes explained that he was protesting Nassau County's new law that made wearing a face mask in public illegal. He also explained that he was protesting the decision by Commissioner Ryder to send 2 masked thugs to his house in 2024. He said the men crossed county lines and were unsuccessful in apprehending Reyes for trespassing charges. He continued explaining this fact dozens of times during the broadcast, telling everyone he encountered about the incident, and sometimes just randomly reminding his viewers of all the known misdeeds of the police commissioner. When asked why he didn't use his $162,000 electronic billboard truck as part of the protest, Reyes said it was too nice a day for the truck. Instead, residents of the neighborhood were treated to the sight of Reyes wearing black pants and black hoodie and hat, both on sale on his website, while he lumbered through the area, holding up his phone to document his every move. Reyes eventually encountered a police officer who claimed to be responding to a call from concerned residents who thought Reyes might be lost or in medical distress. Reyes was offended by this, then spent time attempting to challenge a resident who yelled a vague threat at him from across the street. The YouTuber would later encounter the officer again, as multiple police vehicles would eventually make their way to Commissioner Ryder's house. They were apparently summoned for an incident at the home, which may have been Reyes walking by the police commissioner's son as he exited the home. No arrests were made, and Reyes declared his protest a success soon afterwards. He then celebrated his victory by walking back to his car and leaving the area. Reyes got a minor victory on Monday in his ongoing lawsuit against the New York City Police Department. His new attorney, Karen Munoz-Trevino, was successfully added to the case with pro-hack vice status. She will be representing Reyes going forward. Of course, Reyes' protest did little to spark the markets, as our own ongoing expenses campaign took Wednesday with a $25 donation, and the entire market was rolling in goose eggs for Thursday with no observed donations.
Journalism is not free. Both ReallyCoolSite.org's daily newspaper and our daily newscasts are funded by your continuing donations and what we make from our YouTube AdSense revenue each month. If you'd like to contribute to help us keep the lights on, eating, keeping the cats fed, and writing news stories to feature on both the newspaper and newscast each day, we do have a GoFundMe set up at the address on screen right now. If you can't afford to contribute, please watch our videos from beginning to end. Like, share, subscribe, and comment. You can help by doing next to nothing, and we thank you in advance for pitching in.
Glenn Serio challenges deputy to mutual combat. American activist and snappy dresser Glenn Serio returned to YouTube Thursday with a new video released to YouTube featuring the First Amendment auditor challenging a Snohomish County sheriff to mutual combat at the Mukilteo Speedway Center in Mukilteo, Washington. Serio apparently was randomly wandering through the Speedway Center's lower parking lot when he encountered an armored truck parked near a Wells Fargo-branded ATM. A worker was working on the ATM, and Serio began filming the man as he worked. A second man in a white pickup truck approached Serio and asked him what he was doing. Serio refused to answer, and the man walked back to his truck. That man installed a sign directing customers to a LA Fitness gym located in the upper parking lot, then drove off, flipping off Serio in the process. After the man left, Serio returned to filming the worker at the ATM, standing about 4 parking spots away from the man. Eventually, the man realized he was being filmed and picked up the cash he was loading into the machine and retreating into the armored vehicle. Serio became angered that the man left the machine's cover open and started wondering aloud if the men operating the Loomis security vehicle had a schedule to maintain. Serio, now completely oblivious that he was considered a threat by the Loomis workers, continued to film in the parking lot. Eventually, a Snohomish County Sheriff's vehicle rolled up on Serio, with a deputy asking Serio what was going on from inside the vehicle. Serio pretending he couldn't hear the officer, and the officer, along with a man on a ride-along, exited the vehicle. Serio explained to the officer that he was just filming and asked the officer if he could force the worker to return to work. He expressed a concern that the machine's cover was still open to the officer and did not notice as the Loomis worker returned to the machine and finished whatever operation he needed to finish. After Serio realized he had been distracted, he asked the deputy if he knew any specific fighting styles. When the deputy said he didn't, Serio asked him what he'd do if he was attacked. The officer replied he'd figure out if that happened. Serio then asked the officer if he's been kicked in the leg so hard that he was disabled for a couple of days afterwards. Puzzled, the deputy said no. Serio then asked if the deputy wanted to get in a scuffle and challenged the deputy to mutual combat in the parking lot. After the deputy declined Serio's unusual advances, Serio mocked the deputy, stating that the officer was dressed for combat, while Serio was just a man wearing slippers. The deputy again declined. The incident continued as both the Loomis armored vehicle and the police vehicle drove away. A man walked up to Serio and asked if the ATM was working. Serio pretending not to speak English, and the man walked up to the ATM. Serio filmed the man as he approached the ATM, stopping only when he noticed that the sheriff's vehicle had returned to the parking lot and was observing what he was filming. Serio walked past the man using the ATM and stood at an angle where he couldn't see the screen until the man left. The video abruptly cut off as the man walked away from the ATM. And we're back. Don't believe the hype. While Jim will be gone for the weekend, Pope Phil II and the gang will be back tomorrow night with with a Not Another live stream show. There's rumors of an uprising, power sharing, leprechauns, and other random acts of journalism. So be there or be TikTok, baby. With that, we're out of here.